Today we're going to take a look at this. This is the Weber Workshop's HG2 Hand Grinder 2, the sequel to the HG1. And it's a $1,500 hand grinder. Who is this for? What do you get for your money? What are the shots like? These are the questions we're going to answer today. Now, there's kind of a reason to review this grinder, and there's kind of a reason not to review this grinder for me. The reason not to, honestly, is that I don't like hand grinding. You know what I mean? This grinder is built for people who love hand grinding and have the budget to go all the way in terms of buying the most luxurious, almost decadent grinder they can get for their money. I'm not that person. I like motors. I like electricity, especially in the morning, to help me do the jobs that I don't want to do. The good reason to review this grinder is that Weber Workshops also recently launched on a crowdfunding kind of platform, the Key Grinder. Now that's a kind of electric version of this in many ways. It's the same burr set inside, some of the same technology in terms of what's called the Magic Tumbler, which we'll talk about. So in reviewing this, I guess we can get a little bit of insight about what's coming with the upcoming Key Grinder. What we'll do first is a quick tour of the grinder, a tour of the features, the functionality, kind of what you get for your money. Let's start with the flywheel, which spins so nicely. When there's no coffee in there, it just spins and spins. Very nicely made, feels very good. The whole grinder really has lovely fit and finish. The tolerances feel incredibly tight. It feels beautifully put together. Something that I said about Weber's other grinder, the EG1 that I have on the back bar there. Now, in an effort to save space, they've actually shrunk the base of the grinder compared to the EG1, but they've also added this, which is a collapsible handle. There, so now it's pretty compact. It kind of goes down. I don't know if I would necessarily use this feature much. It depends on the layout of your kitchen, obviously, but you know, if I'm putting it away and we're pulling it out, it's quite a heavy grinder, so it doesn't feel like something I'd want to move around a lot, but you know, in the efforts of space saving, it's a nice touch. It's a nice touch. Now, one of the big additions to this grinder is here at the front. And it's this, it's a gearing system. So here you've kind of got an option between grinding 1-to-1, so one rotation of the flywheel equals one rotation of the burrs, or a kind of 2-to-1, which is what it's in now, which is two rotations of the flywheel to one rotation of the burrs. That makes grinding much easier. Today I'm going to be using relatively light roasted coffee for espresso. I'll show you that now. And so for that, it's quite hard to grind. It's pretty much, it's not impossible at the kind of 1-to-1 ratio, but it's just unpleasant. At the 2-to-1 ratio, grinding is really pretty easy. We'll talk more about that in a second. So that is a big innovation. It feels nice, it's clever. If you're grinding for, say, filter coffee, or you're grinding dark roasts where resistance is going to be less of an issue, then you can just be more productive and get more out of each turn. But you know, when it's hard, when you're grinding something a little lighter, life can be easier. Because that's kind of the worst bit of hand grinding, right? Like no one enjoys the exercise aspect. That's not a fun way to exercise, I don't think. Let me turn it again one more time. Here you can see your grind marker. Now, the way that this thing adjusts the grind is similar to how the HG1 worked, which is you have a lifting locking ring, and then you would adjust it one way or the other. As always, the larger the number, the coarser the grind. That's a very normal kind of setting. That's a good thing. Now, one of the things that's kind of weird for me about this is that you can actually lift the locking ring off entirely, right, which does nothing, and it will only fit in certain places, which is a design thing, right? Like you're not going to accidentally put it back down in the wrong place. Like you'd see that the numbers had shifted too much, and so you'd know you'd put it back incorrectly for where you were before. Feature-wise, it's not the most satisfying adjustment, certainly compared to how it works on the EG1. There's a kind of lid piece here that sits just sort of loose on top of the burr set, the way your beans can fall in, go underneath, and then not popcorn out, so you don't have any popcorning issues, which works well. And then should you need to lift this up for whatever reason, you can do to kind of get in there. This brings us to the Magic Tumbler. Now, the Magic Tumbler is a couple of different parts. It's this piece here, which is really very similar to the other Weber kind of tumbler, where you have a central piece that you lift out. This works just the same as the one in my EG1. So you just have a piece in the middle, you lift it up, coffee falls out the bottom. Works very well. This one has magnets around the top. So when you put it into place, it locks in and stays there on its own. That's very satisfying. The interesting twist, though, is this thing here. Now this, as you turn the handle, acts to stir the coffee. Right, that's kind of what's happening. It's mixing up and declumping the grounds. And it's kind of interesting. The results I'll show you in a second are quite impressive looking. Like it really helps with distribution. It really helps with declumping. It works very well. It feels quite fragile because it's just a little bit of wire bent around here. The nice thing is that they're kind of connected, the flywheel and the wire piece here. because my flywheel will always end in the down position with the handle at the bottom, it means that the pin will always end in this position or the one exactly opposite if I'm geared that way, or if I'm in the other gear, then it will always end up in the same place every single time. That's kind of nice. It doesn't cause me any problems when it comes to, you know, maneuvering it, because you quickly learn where it's going to be each time, and that's kind of nice. So it's not a pain point, but the results I think are really interesting. Now at this point, what we should probably do is make some coffee. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind 18.5 grams at the grind setting I've been using for espresso. I'm going to just grind it. We're going to let it run. The camera's going to run the whole time. If you don't want to watch me grind the coffee and see how long it takes and see what the process looks like, you can use the kind of timestamps or chapter markers just to skip ahead. All done. Now, as you'll have seen, occasionally I do have a kind of lifting thing where it lifts slightly off the bench. Maybe that's a technique thing, maybe it's my misdistribution of my effort in terms of holding it down versus spinning the wheel. I'd be interested to hear from other users about whether that's an issue for them too. It doesn't bother me, it's just sort of notable in the kind of noise department. Now, the coffee that comes out looks incredibly fluffy, like really super fluffy. And when you dose it into a portafilter, it looks great. So that looks fluffy. Now, that stirring action might cause pieces almost to stick together. It sometimes looks like the coffee is more coarsely ground than it is. That's a very fine grind. That's espresso fine. It almost looks a little bit coarser because of the way it's been stirred. I haven't really had issues with extraction as a result. It is kind of notable though, the way that it produces grounds that don't look like grounds usually look. Now, such a fancy grinder, and I'm a fancy man, deserves a fancy stirring. And I have something for you. Oh yes. Oh so fancy. I'll tell you more about these at the end of the video. Now the burr set in this thing is an 83mm conical burr set, sourced from Mazza in Italy. You'll know them from many fine conical bird grinders. They are seasoned and then coated to give them a really long lifespan, but you don't need to sort of break them in. They should be good straight out of the box, which frankly is a lovely way for a grinder manufacturer to approach the customer experience. I think, and have thought for a decade or more, that seasoning a grinder is a very stupid experience and a very frustrating one for the consumer. That aside, the shots that this burr set produces are very nice, unsurprisingly. You know, you feel like conical burr sets in espresso have typically skewed towards texture, but this has not necessarily produced those kind of thick, gooey shots, because I don't think the roast that I'm working with ever really will do that, right? Lighter roasts just never really create that kind of ultimate textural experience in espresso. The texture you do get, though, is lovely. Like, it's silky. It's just very soft. It's kind of moussey more than buttery. Like, it's just light and fluffy and velvety. It's a very pleasant textural experience, no question. Shots have had more than adequate extraction, plenty of sweetness to them. They've been very enjoyable shots. I would say pretty transparent. Not necessarily those kind of more kind of unimodal style, very sweet but very linear style of espresso shots that you get from sort of low fines producing flat burrs. This is producing a different spectrum of grind sizes, and that's kind of part of the desire of this thing. When it comes to comparisons, once again, the target for this thing somehow is going to be the niche grinder. In part because I think the key is aimed at people who want something like the niche grinder, but want a different kind of build and experience that goes with it that, you know, ends up costing kind of 2 to 3 times the price of the niche. But are the shots that much better? Right? Is the coffee from this burr set notably better than that from a niche? Let's find out. So I pulled a shot of each, pretty much the same specs for both of them. One's, you can see, a little foamier, it's a little fresher. Time to double spoon. Now, it's important to say that this is not a blind comparison, and it has to be a kind of sort of demonstration shot, right? I've pulled lots of shots with both of these grinders. This is not a singular comparison. This is using these to explain a wider comparison of the two. The HG2. Very nice. And the Niche. And they're definitely different. You can feel the similarity both at conical burr grinders. The bigger conical burr set doesn't taste, to me, sort of more conical in a way, like it's not heavier. In this case, my experience with the kind of coffees that I drink is that often, not always, but sometimes I prefer the texture of the Niche. It could be that little bit thicker. It's a more heavily used and seasoned grinder. It's the smaller burr set. It's electric versus manual. There's a lot of weird comparisons here. It really has the clarity and sweetness of this, right? And it's almost like the next one in this line would be a good flat burr grinder. You know, this sits probably closer to the sort of hybrid of the two, you know, this thing here, than it does to just like a pure conical. So you get nice texture, you get a kind of lighter, silkier, softer, very moussey, delicate kind of texture that I really like, but you get nice sweetness, nice clarity too. The Niche can feel that little bit heavier, but that little bit muddier with it as well, in my experience. It's not a huge difference here. And again, both are excellent, you know, and the reason to buy these are quite different. You know, they're different prices, they're different experiences, they're kind of weird comparisons, but I feel like it's the comparison most people want me to make, you know, for this video. Now, I feel like this is probably more focused on espresso than anything else, but we should probably make a quick V60 to talk about how it is to grind for filter coffee. So grinding for filter is kind of where you'd want the gear system to kick in. So I've switched to the faster gear, so I should be able to grind much faster. I've got 20 grams of coffee, ground, what's going to be ground, that little bit coarser for a V60. Now, as I'm working, it's worth mentioning a couple more pieces on the workflow front here. Firstly is this little dosing tin that comes with it. It's functionally great. It feels solid and yet somehow doesn't really fit with the wider aesthetic of the unit. Doesn't really bother me, but it is worth kind of noting that it doesn't have that kind of decadence that the rest of this grinder does. But it makes it very easy to load coffee in. It's quite a narrow space, so some things you might want to weigh into won't be that easy to pour into sometimes. And as I make a mess, inevitably, I'll note in the handle here is a little brush. It's very nice. You just, you know, brush as you need to. Pull that bit down and it slots back in into the handle there. You've always got it to hand. That's very nice. That's a nice little detail. Last one that I didn't mention is actually in the base here. I don't love the little leather piece here. It doesn't please me the way the rest of the grinder does, but it does cover a magnet that sits under the base. Now, if you don't use the magic tumbler, you can get a little funnel piece that sits here and then a regular tumbler that's held in place by the magnet. Again, a nice touch. I'm just not 100% on the leather work for me. Like, I think a lot of people would like it. I just don't love it. It's just kind of me. Anyway, let's make some coffee. Filter coffee from this has been very nice. It's got a little bit more of that kind of textural experience that some people want to sacrifice for clarity. Its clarity is good, it's very good. I know a lot of people get upset that I like the Niche for filter coffee, and so it's probably no surprise that I think this is nice for filter coffee. I think if you are living a life where you can A/B test this against a good flat burr grinder that has unimodal burrs, yeah, you'll sort of have a preference towards one over the other. In the singular moment of I made coffee, I sat down and I drank it, did I enjoy it? Yeah, I think you probably would find that to be delicious, well extracted, really nice texture, an enjoyable experience. So to wrap up, I'm going to talk about who I think this grinder is kind of made for and who it isn't made for, and then also what we can probably infer from this grinder about the upcoming key grinder that I think a lot of people are very interested in. This is very expensive. We didn't talk a lot about the price, but $1,500 is a lot of money. And I feel like that in some ways selects its audience a little bit. It's people who have a deep passion for a certain kind of sort of coffee experience and the budget to really go deep on that. This doesn't really belong in the comparison to things like hand grinders, which are about a bunch of other stuff, be it like good value in terms of getting a good burr set for minimal expenditure, or having something portable or easy, or, you know, not taking up counter space. This is not that. It's a whole other experience that you're looking for. You are looking to have an exceedingly manual experience grinding coffee. And probably it's going to be paired with a lever machine, because it feels like if you want this, you definitely want the experience of a lever machine alongside that. And that may lead you towards a certain style of espresso that I feel like this burr set probably, you know, is built for in many ways, right? Like I feel like you want the clarity and the sweetness of great coffee, but you want texture. That's how you're going to pull your lever shots. That's what you want your grinder to deliver. You want to feel connected physically to both of those things. If that isn't you, and honestly it isn't me, that's okay. This isn't for you. But if that is an incredibly sort of enjoyable part of the process, if the touching, doing, ritual part of it really is a pleasure for you, then I can see how this would absolutely appeal. Like all Weber stuff, I really like the build. The detail is there, the fit, the finish. It feels exceptionally well crafted and it feels expensive, but I feel like you know where the money is going, right? It doesn't feel like a bloated luxury product, even though it has that kind of decadence about it. You know, not quite excess, but it's a lot. You know what I mean? Its build, its feel, its price is a lot. Now the Magic Tumbler here, I really liked it. I really enjoyed the experience. I'll be super interested to see how it translates across to the upcoming key grinder, where you've got higher RPM. That might change things a little bit. You've got a kind of different experience, maybe more control, more consistency with an electric motor. I don't know what I'm going to get, but I'm definitely intrigued by it. And if I was looking at ordering this or that, I would be very tempted to add the Magic Tumbler option. The coffee just looks so good in the basket straight out of the tumbler, which is appealing. And the shots have been great, so it feels like it's working. I was skeptical going in, but I definitely like it. So that is the Weber HG2, and I feel like this absolutely speaks to you, or it absolutely does not. And there's kind of no one in the middle there. You know what I mean? If this is appealing for you, I don't think you'll be disappointed by your experience. I think you'll feel like you've spent your money well, spent a lot of money, but spent it well. And if this doesn't appeal to you, ignore it, move on. Pay attention to the key that's coming up that's kind of the same price, I think, but with an electric motor and no gearing, but doesn't need that. But it's got variable sort of RPMs and stuff. It's definitely interesting. I look forward to playing with one of the finished units when they ship. Now, I don't get to keep this grinder. I'll be giving it away to one of my Patreon supporters. They are the ones that fund me buying this stuff, reviewing it, and giving you my honest opinion. And I'm very grateful to them, and I love giving these things away to them. And if you've got one of these already, I do want to hear from you down in the comments below. What did I miss? What did I get right? What do you think I got wrong? I'd really like to hear from you. Share your opinion with all of us. And just to wrap up, I did say I'd tell you all about those spoons. Now, if you've been following this channel, you'll know that I have a fondness for fancy teaspoons. And, well, having had one set, I couldn't help but want something even fancier. And so, at Tens, Hundreds, Thousands, we teamed up with Ume Shiso, because Umeko makes the best spoons. You know that I use the kind of rainbow spoons all the time. They're amazing. And we collaborated to create this, a beautiful box set of 6 rainbow Demi-Tasse spoons. So they're a single run. I think they look amazing. Like, they're so cool. If you want to be a little bit fancy, I hope they appeal to you. I think they make the whole experience of drinking and stirring your espresso more fun. I think they're just fun and beautiful and amazing. And yeah, we're really excited about them. So I hope you like them too. All right, that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.